So a few weeks ago, I made a poll on LinkedIn which asked everyone if they felt their upbringing had impacted their beliefs around money. Here are the results. We can see that 35 people took the poll here, and over 70% of people felt they were severely impacted by their upbringing when it comes to their beliefs around money. Now, I did actually ask for people to tell me a little bit more about their situation in the comments, and I kind of went first here, but nobody did, and I can kind of understand why, and it's because it's quite a sensitive subject, particularly when it comes to like beliefs around money. Maybe some of these people are actually struggling as well when it comes to, how they make money, how they've been impacted by it as well. So the reason why I was so curious to ask this question is because I know my upbringing dramatically impacted my beliefs around money and therefore impacted my beliefs around how to make money as well. I grew up in a very poor family. My mum had to move across country to go and live with my grandma when I was just 1 year old because we had to escape my father, who was very abusive, right? And that's not a cry story. I just want to tell you a little bit about it. And I remember that money was so scarce. My mum used to have to cut coupons out constantly. She was worried about the bills. She was worried about where her next paycheck comes from. She was a therapist, and although she was very, very good at what she was, she just started her business and she wasn't that good at charging what she was worth, even though she used to get amazing client results. So the money wasn't really sustainable that was coming in. And as a consequence, I used to just see her skimping and saving and borrowing school clothes off our relatives so I could dress up in them so she could send me to school, borrowing money from, credit cards and things to pay for my lunches, to pay for my dinners as well. I remember that even when she got enough money to move out of my grandma's house when I was like 11 or 12 to move into our own small house, I remember that whenever I was in the shower, as a teenager, within 2 to 3 minutes, my mum was at the bottom of the stairs shouting up to me, "Rob, make sure you hurry up in the shower because the electricity bill is going to be huge," right? So real scarcity that she was in. And this was like a daily occurrence as well. And the thing is about upbringings is you don't think about it at the time, but basically your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, they all come from how you were brought up. And what happens is over time, it's almost like a butterfly effect and it impacts you later on in life. So I remember that I also adopted these beliefs, and Jim Rohn says that like you are basically the product of the 5 closest people you keep towards you. You basically share beliefs like osmosis. You share beliefs, you share actions, you share the same thoughts as these people. So if you've got a bunch of like almost bad people around you, they're almost likely to drag you down. But if you've got a bunch of good people around you, they will actually drag you up as well. And I remember when I was in my 20s, I think I was like 23, 24, and I was walking around a clothing store with my girlfriend, and I hadn't realized this whole time I'm basically being controlled by these scarcity money beliefs. And I remember walking around this store and I'd spotted a few clothes I'd like, and it was just a regular clothing store. It wasn't an expensive store or anything like this. And I spotted a t-shirt I'd like, and it was like 10, 15 pound, and it wasn't a lot of money, and I had money in my bank. It wasn't like I had no money whatsoever. And I remember thinking to myself, I really wanted the shirt. I remember thinking to myself, can I live without this shirt? If I do get it, is it really gonna, change the way I look? And if I do get it, like, am I gonna miss that bit of money which I've just spent on it? Even though it was like 10, 15 pounds. And suddenly, I don't know what it was, because most people don't get this, but suddenly I thought to myself, what am I doing? Like, this is insane, right? It's absolutely insane that I'm sat here debating over whether the quality of my life is gonna be severely impacted by this 10 to 15 pound t-shirt I'm about to pick up. And then I thought to myself, if I do have a problem and it is going to impact me, like I have got way bigger problems financially than I think I have. And right at that moment, I thought to myself, right, these are obviously old beliefs that I'm keeping around myself, and they're not my beliefs. They're beliefs I've seen from someone who is in a panicked situation that have basically rubbed off on me over the time, and I've adopted these beliefs as well, even though they do not serve me. They do not serve me whatsoever. They're actually impacting the way I look at money. And I remember thinking to myself, I have to try and gradually push this comfort zone and go ahead and, just buy this t-shirt. If I see something, I've got to try and pick it up because I like it, right? And so I started to do that, but it takes a long time to unwire these thoughts, these patterns you've got yourself into. It's like, when you put your headphones in your pocket and you pull them out after like 15 seconds and the wire's like completely tangled and it takes you ages to untangle them. It's kind of like how your brain is as well, except you've not put your brain in your pocket for 15 seconds. Your brain has been getting these beliefs for the first 20 years of your life, or however the circumstances have still stayed the same around you when you're getting these bad patterns given to you. And looking back, I even remember that there was a bunch of opportunities to take high income jobs and I just didn't take them. And the reason why I didn't take them is because I felt very guilty around money. I remember roughly when I was about 25, I started to get into like entrepreneurship. I found a guy who I ended up buying a course of, but his name was Ramit Sethi, and you can look him up. He's a great guy. He, was very big in the online space, and like in 2009 and the early days of online entrepreneurship, he was huge and a really authentic guy, really great guy. And basically he'd released this course. It was called Earn 1K. I don't even think they sell it anymore. And it was about £800. And I was so interested in it. He'd been marketing to me for a long time, but it was £800. Now I had money in the bank, plenty to cover this cost. But I was thinking to myself, oh, what happens if this was a bad investment? And like, everyone should have a little bit of risk mitigation in their head, but sometimes it's way too much. In my times, it was like way too much. And I remember emailing his team. I looked through every single one of his testimonials. They all checked out. I read through every single piece of his advice, tried to apply everything before I eventually made the decision to do a payment plan with him, even though I could afford it, to pay slightly more, but just so I didn't lose that whole £800 right then. Instead, I would pay like 70 quid a month for like 12 months instead, or 12 or 14 months or something like that. And anyway, that ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made because it really introduced me to entrepreneurship. And I'm not sure where I would have gotten had I not taken that first step. And I remember actually getting a client for basically like, I think they paid me like £40 to like check over the resume and like edit a few things. And essentially, like, I remember thinking to myself, as soon as I closed this client for £40, right? Wow, like somebody just paid me for my expertise. It was like this huge moment. I was like, £40, like, and this person wants like 2 hours work, like, it's a lot of money for just like 2 hours work just to do these few things. And it really like started to change my mind. Now I'm telling you the story to show you how the threads and like the wires of your mind can gradually get untangled, but not actually get untangled straight away. And so over time, I was like, well, now how do I get more clients who can also pay me this, right? And then I did that. And then I started to learn more about like the online space. And I had, the gurus marketing to me on, YouTube or whatever platform I was on, like Tai Lopez, Grant Cardone, Sam Ovens as well. And they're all telling me about all this money they were making. And gradually my beliefs around money started to change because I started to see other people managing to achieve some of these, money figures and things. And the change was happening very gradually and it was very painful. I remember that I had tons of sales calls before I even closed my first high ticket client, because I just didn't think that people paid this amount of money. And these are completely my own faulty beliefs as well. And then eventually I joined communities And in communities, like you can see other people achieving great results, you get around like-minded people. And I started to change out the closest people I kept around me to people who would, change these beliefs, who were much further along than I would. And gradually my mindset started to change. I started to close like higher ticket clients. I closed like a 2K deal, and I closed like, a bit more than that. And then eventually, much further into entrepreneurship, I did like my 5-figure month, and I was like mind blown, right? I was like mind blown. I was like, I didn't know this is frigging possible, because I came from an area of scarcity, an upbringing of scarcity, where money was constantly fleeting. You couldn't get any of it. Like, you had to worry about the consequences of spending. As a consequence, I didn't invest in myself at all. And as a consequence, I missed loads of deals in that as well. And then as I got older and changed like the group and changed the people that are around me, I started to see things. And because I could see things, I started to believe them. So people have to see things and be around things to actually adopt the different beliefs. Going back to like why it's important to keep good people around you. And so I started to see different things, and because of this, my beliefs changed very gradually as well. And then things became possible, things which I never thought would be possible before started to become true for me. I started to move up in my business. My beliefs started to adjust because of this, and it was like this feedback loop here. I've been brought up in this scarcity mentality, but really money is frigging abundant. Here's how I know and can prove that money is frigging abundant. In 2020, when the world was struggling with this event and like the entire economy is closed down, the US just decided to print $3.38 trillion. Yes, they just printed $3.38 trillion just out of the blue, because they wanted to. If people can just print money, it's not scarce at all. Which brings me to another point as well. One of the commonly held beliefs around people who are rich is that they come from a rich family, they've been given the money, and this belief is typically held by the masses, and I used to hold this belief as well. Here's a different take on the situation. People who have been brought up in rich circumstances, even if they haven't been given any money, tend to make it anyway. And the reason why is they don't have a scarce mindset around money. I was reading Dan Bilzerian's book. Now, if you don't know who Dan Bilzerian is, he's basically like a playboy who lives on a yacht and has millions and millions of dollars in the bank. And he also had a rich dad. And because he had a rich dad, everyone just assumed his dad gave him money. Yet in his book, he provides actual evidence that his dad actually gave him no money. At 18 years old, he moved out, joined like the Navy to try and become a Navy SEAL, and made his money on his own from there. In fact, he actually had no money, but he did acknowledge he grew up in a rich family. And as a consequence, my opinion is he didn't have all this baggage that typical people have in typical situations. He didn't have the scarcity. He said he grew up in a massive home with nice cars and things. His dad didn't really buy too many toys, but he also had lots of money and he was always secure. So as a consequence, Dan already knew there was money out there to be made, and he was just like, how can I make money? But the typical masses think to themselves, money is really hard to get, and once you do get it, it's going to leave you. Only rich people have money. And this really holds people back, as it did with me as well. So that's kind of my point to this video. Like, if you want to change your circumstances, you need to be like changing the information you're consuming, which is the whole purpose of making this channel, to try and give some people a bit of a head start and share my learning lessons and my results as well. But secondly to this as well, you need to change the people you're around, because you don't think it at the time, but actually your mind is pretty much like a sponge, and you just absorb other people's beliefs, ideas, and actions as well. So if you can change that to positive people, to people who are influential, you will do much better. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you did, and take care. See you in the next one.